The GPS alert hit my phone like a gunshot in the dead of night, a sharp vibration that yanked me out of a restless sleep. My heart stuttered as I stared at the screen, the notification glowing like a warning flare. This wasn't just a ping from one of Secure Trace Solutions' devices. It was a predator's footprint, a digital claw mark. Someone was tracking us, mapping our every move with cold precision. They thought they could hide in the shadows, but they just ignited a fuse. I was ready to burn down. The war had begun, and I, David Martinez, 38 years old, was about to show them what happens when you play dirty in my neighborhood. This wasn't just about defending my ground, it was about dismantling an empire of control. And I wasn't stopping, until the truth was laid bare. I never imagined I'd be locked in a battle with a suburban HOA president of all people. I run Secure Trace Solutions, a company that builds cutting-edge GPS tech for fleet management, investigators, and law enforcement. My days are spent outsmarting criminals, not squabbling over lawn aesthetics. But Margaret Whitfield, 52, a former bank manager turned neighborhood tyrant, had other plans. After retiring early, she made it her life's mission to rule Willowbrook with an iron grip. Armed with a binder stuffed with HOA rules, a measuring tape and a digital camera, she patrolled our streets like a warden, documenting violations with the zeal of a prosecutor. Behind her back, neighbors called her the dictator of Willowbrook, a nickname earned through years of micromanaging lives into neat, soulless boxes. It all started innocently enough with my wife Sarah's sunflowers. Sarah, a landscape architect, knows plants like a poet knows words. She'd chosen a heritage variety for our front yard, magnificent sunflowers that would stretch 6 feet tall, their golden heads a vibrant backdrop to our stone walkway. These weren't just flowers, they were a deliberate piece of art, part of a landscape plan to boost our property value and add beauty to the neighborhood. Sarah had spent months sketching designs, calculating bloom patterns, and researching soil conditions to ensure those sunflowers would thrive. But to Margaret, they were a declaration of war. One afternoon, Margaret appeared on our walkway, clipboard in hand, measuring tape glinting like a weapon. "Mrs. Martinez," she announced, her voice dripping with authority, "your sunflowers violate HOA Regulation 4. 2. Landscape plants shall not exceed 4 feet in height within the front yard setback area." She stood there, looking like she'd just uncovered a crime scene. Sarah, calm as ever, explained that city ordinances only restricted fences and permanent structures, not plants, and that her design actually increased property values. Margaret's eyes narrowed. "I appreciate your professional background, dear," she said, the word dear sharp as a blade. "But the HOA has the legal authority to impose stricter standards than municipal codes. These flowers send the wrong message about our community's commitment to uniformity." That conversation was our first warning that we weren't dealing with a reasonable neighbor. Margaret saw any spark of individuality as a personal affront. The next morning, a violation notice was taped to our front door. Not a simple warning, but a multi-page manifesto citing regulation numbers, photographic evidence, and a $200 fine for willful disregard of community standards. Sarah, undeterred, spent hours crafting a response, attaching city ordinances, botanical research, and testimonials from other landscape architects. Margaret's reply was a form letter. Individual preferences cannot supersede the collective will of the community. It was clear she wasn't interested in dialogue. She wanted submission. By the second week, Margaret's campaign escalated to surveillance. I caught her at 6 a.m., crouched behind our mailbox like a spy, photographing our sunflowers to document their overnight growth. When I confronted her, she straightened up, unashamed. "I'm conducting routine compliance monitoring," she declared, snapping photos from multiple angles and measuring shadows with a stopwatch. That's when I installed security cameras around our house, a decision that would prove to be our greatest weapon. Margaret's obsession was no longer just annoying, it was invasive, and I needed evidence. Week 3 brought the neighborhood meeting, a spectacle that felt like a public trial. Margaret sent formal invitations to all 127 households in Willowbrook, calling it a Community Standards Assembly. Held in the community center's main hall, it was less a meeting and more a theatrical performance. Margaret had rented a professional lectern, and prepared a 40-slide PowerPoint titled "The Slippery Slope: How Individual Violations Threaten Community Values." Our sunflowers starred as her Exhibit A, blown up on a massive screen as evidence of rebellion. "Ladies and gentlemen," she declared, gesturing dramatically, "we are witnessing a direct challenge to everything that makes Willowbrook special. The Martinez family's refusal to comply isn't just about flowers, it's about respect for our shared values." She showed before and after photos of neighborhoods that had deteriorated due to lax enforcement, implying our sunflowers were the first step toward urban decay. I watched, stunned, as neighbors nodded along. Mrs. Rodriguez, whose kids played in our yard, avoided my gaze. Mr. Thompson, who'd once praised Sarah's gardening, clapped at Margaret's points. The social isolation hit hard. Margaret's daily email blasts, sent through her Willowbrook Community Standards list, named our house number in every update, complete with photos and dire warnings about the deterioration of our community fabric. She even led concerned neighbor walking tours, parading residents past our house to lecture about how some families choose personal preference over responsibility. Sarah started having panic attacks, flinching at every doorbell or passing car. One night, tears streaming down her face, she whispered, "Maybe Margaret's right, maybe I was selfish to plant those flowers." Seeing my brilliant, confident wife reduced to self-doubt by one woman's power trip was the moment I knew this wasn't just a dispute, it was a fight for our dignity. By week 4, Margaret's tactics turned to public humiliation. She hired a landscaping crew to measure our entire yard, while she stood on the sidewalk, megaphone in hand, narrating the flagrant violations like a reality TV host. Neighbors 3 blocks away came to gawk at the problem house. She posted a comprehensive violation documentation report on every community bulletin board, listing our address, photos, and a fabricated claim that our sunflowers had slashed neighborhood property values by 3%. A local newspaper ran a story on the challenges facing modern HOAs, quoting Margaret and concerned neighbors who lamented our selfish priorities. Sarah stopped sleeping, and I stopped pretending this was just about flowers. The morning everything changed started quietly. I was reviewing security footage while Sarah got ready for work when my phone buzzed with a secure trace alert. My hands shook as I opened the interface. One of our GT2500 GPS trackers, top-of-the-line, real-time, 6-month battery life, was active within 50 meters of our house. I traced the signal to Sarah's car. The data showed her every move for the past 72 hours. Grocery store, gym, doctors, office, coffee with her sister. Sarah's face drained of color as she stared at the digital trail. "That's how she knew," she whispered. "Yesterday, Margaret was waiting in the grocery store parking lot. She told me I should be home, fixing our yard instead of gallivanting around." I called Jake Morrison, our attorney and my college friend, who'd handled Secure Trace's legal matters for 5 years. "This is textbook stalking," Jake said. "Class D felony, $10,000 fine, up to 2 years in prison. She's done." But the GPS was just the tip of a much darker iceberg. Digging into HOA records, we found Margaret had rewritten rules without community votes, violating state law requiring 75% approval for changes. She'd collected $15,000 in fines from 23 families, funneling every penny into a personal account for a community management startup. Willowbrook was her laboratory, and we were her test subjects. I reached out to Robert Whitfield, Margaret's husband, a quiet IT engineer who always seemed embarrassed by her antics. At a coffee shop away from her watchful eye, he looked like a man crushed by guilt. "David, I'm so sorry," he said, glancing around nervously. "Margaret's obsessed. She spends 12 hours a day monitoring the neighborhood, documenting violations, planning enforcement. I've tried talking to her, but she thinks she's saving Willowbrook from chaos." Then he dropped a bombshell. Margaret was building a consulting business, using our neighborhood to test authoritarian tactics she planned to sell to other HOAs. The fines? They funded her startup, not the community. The final piece fell into place at the county records office. Buried in Willowbrook's 1987 development contract, signed by my father's company, Martinez Construction, was Clause 15.3. It gave our family permanent oversight over unreasonable, discriminatory, or financially burdensome HOA rules. My dad, David Martinez Sr., had foreseen HOA tyranny and built in a safeguard. When I read him the clause, he chuckled. "Son, I wrote that to stop power-hungry board members from ruining lives. I never thought you'd need it, but I'm glad it's there." Margaret's final resolution meeting was her planned triumph, a summons to all 127 households to save Willowbrook from chaos. She rented the community center's largest room, complete with professional lighting and projection screens. She arrived in a navy suit, wheeling a suitcase of materials, ready to bury us. Her 45-minute presentation was a masterclass in manipulation, with charts linking property values to strict enforcement and our sunflowers as the spark of decline. "We choose order over chaos," she proclaimed, "community over selfishness." Then she revealed her trump card, a map of Sarah's GPS-tracked movements, proof we'd neglected our duties. The crowd shifted uncomfortably, some impressed, others disturbed by her surveillance. That's when I stood holding the GT2500 tracker. "Margaret, are you aware that placing this on my wife's car without consent is a felony?" The room went silent. Her confidence cracked as I displayed the tracker's serial number, purchased by her from my company, Secure Trace Solutions. "I'm not just a resident," I said. "I'm the CEO who built this device. You used my tech to stalk my wife." Jake stood, announcing himself as our attorney. "Margaret faces felony stalking charges with fines and prison time." I projected bank records showing her $15,000 embezzlement, and the room erupted. Neighbors shouted about their own fines: $250 for a navy door, $300 for late hedge trimming. Then I revealed Clause 15. 3. Our family's legal trump card. "Margaret targeted the one family with the power to override her," I said. Laughter, mixed with outrage. Jake added, "Every fine she issued was illegal. You're owed restitution." Robert Whitfield stood, tears in his eyes. "I apologize for my wife's actions. I didn't know about the GPS or the money, but I'll make this right." He pledged a $20,000 restitution fund. Mrs. Rodriguez, once distant, proposed me as HOA president. The vote was 81-2, with Margaret and her lone ally dissenting. She fled, leaving her equipment behind as neighbors demanded answers. Margaret's downfall was swift. She faced 18 months probation, 200 hours of community service, $25,000 in fines, and a 10-year HOA board ban for stalking, embezzlement, and privacy violations. Robert filed for divorce and sold their house, but not before funding restitution. Investigators found files in Margaret's office detailing her harassment and business plans, sealing her fate. As HOA president, I overhauled Willowbrook's rules with a 7-member committee. We banned surveillance, mandated 75% votes for changes, and required quarterly audits. Our new guidelines prioritized freedom over control, aligning with city laws. We launched a community garden, inspired by Sarah's sunflowers, with a bronze sunflower statue inscribed "Willowbrook Community Garden, where democracy blooms, established 2025. Sarah's motto, "Sometimes the most beautiful flowers grow from the deepest adversity," became our creed. Our story went viral, thanks to a local news segment shared on my YouTube channel, MidnightTales, where I posted a video breaking down the saga. It racked up millions of views, and MidnightTales became a platform for others to share HOA horror stories. Secure Trace Solutions grew 300%, launching a consulting division to help HOAs nationwide balance security, privacy, and democracy. We now advise communities across 12 states, turning nightmares into models of cooperation. 2 years later, Willowbrook is unrecognizable. Kids play freely, neighbors host block parties, and sunflowers bloom everywhere. Mrs. Rodriguez, now Sarah's best friend, asked her to be her granddaughter's godmother. Mr. Thompson helped me build a deck. Even Margaret's former supporters embraced our new culture. Midnight Tales continues to grow, documenting our journey and inspiring others to fight tyranny with courage. Margaret's book, HOA Nightmare, sold 47 copies, mocked for its lies. Meanwhile, Willowbrook is featured in urban planning journals, and delegations from California to Florida study our model. Jake Morrison, our pro bono lawyer, uses our case to teach law students about privacy and governance. He's drafting state laws to protect homeowners from HOA abuse. The GPS tracker sits in my office labeled, "Technology is only as ethical as its user." It's a reminder of our fight, not just for sunflowers, but for a community where trust, creativity, and freedom bloom. On summer evenings, Sarah and I sit on our porch, watching our 7-foot sunflowers sway as neighbors stop to chat. When Sarah asks if I regret fighting back, I look at our thriving neighborhood and know we chose right. Willowbrook and Midnight Tales prove that even the smallest acts of resistance can grow into something magnificent when a community stands together for justice.